What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the DreArea Sports Show. I'm joined by the great Jonny Dale of Jonny Dale's Football Academy. Jonny, what's going on, man?
Man, it is great. It's been a good couple weeks. You know, I've been recovering this week. Last week, I had gone to the Senior Bowl. I was there with the incredible Steph Sanchez, Wayne Breezy, and Brad Graham. Those guys, all of them, are phenomenal. Huge shout out to those three. They made the week much more enjoyable. Yeah, round of applause. They're great content creators and great people.
Sorry, it was on loop. There you
go. They're great content creators and great people. I was missing my family the whole week, but you know, it's like the first day of the Senior Bowl is great to be at. I mean, there's all the excitement. It's the first day. You get to see all these guys for the first time. By the third day comes around, you've been sitting in those bleachers. You're going on 16, 17, and 18 hours of sitting in metal bleachers.
Ooh.
In sometimes the sun, hot. You're going 6 hours, 7 hours without food. And, you know, unless you go buy like the 800 calorie bucket of popcorn, which is crazy. That's $14. But you know, that third day is getting pretty rough by the time you're there. But being with some good people and hanging out with some great people sure makes it a lot better. I was missing my family, so big shout out to them.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be super cool to go there and, like you were saying, hanging out with Wayne Breezy, Steph. I think John Chapman, you said, was there. So it's like you have your own.
John was not there. It was Brad Graham.
Brad Graham, there we go.
Yeah, from the SF Niners.
And again, huge channel. But that's cool because then you have your own little group that you're kind of just like hanging out with. And it's funny because like, what was it? The play by what's his name, Mike Green, who ran through the tackle from Oregon. It's funny because like you see the video that you posted, and then you see the video that Steph posted. Then you see the video that Wayne posted, and they're all just slightly of a different angle because you guys are all sitting next to each other. I was like, oh, okay, now I get to see how they saw it, but it's just a little different. But no, it was really cool though. And so I wanted to ask you, I mean, what is that like being there? You know, obviously looking across the way, seeing John Lynch, D'Amico Ryans, but looking at the same players they're looking at. I mean, how does that feel to know that like you're looking at these elite senior players and then get to watch them playing a game a few days later?
It is a little bit surreal. The Senior Bowl, I will say Jim Nagy has done a phenomenal job. One, the way that they have accommodated and are honestly ahead of the curve of every single NFL team, because the kind of media access that they have started to open up to, understanding that what we're doing here, what we do on our channels, is as big or even bigger than many of your mainstream outlets. You know, so there is about 2,000 people that were credentialed for this event. And so
wow.
The stadium's on our side. When you see the practices and they show, and you see the people in the stands on the other side, those are people like us. Now there's some family members that are there. There's some, you know, kids from areas that maybe, you know, really rooting on their favorite college player are there, but it's very small. I mean, it's maybe 10% of the people that are actually in the stadium. So a guy behind you, like I forget his name, but he was sitting like 2 rows behind us, was a guy that works for ESPN. And he's there, has like 350,000 followers on X, and he's one of their draft analysts. And he's sitting there. You're 2 rows down from him. Right next to you is the local Fox affiliate with their crew of 5 people: the 2 cameramen, an audio guy, a producer, and then the little blonde girl who was going to be the voice on the field and the face on the field, which was hilarious too, because she would sit there and like literally I was watching her. She would scroll on her phone just on social media for 3 hours, didn't pay attention to practice at all, and then would be handed questions and go down and interview a player on the field. I was like, y'all, this is
not even connected, but yet
like
gets to go down there like, hey, how's it going?
I'm like, this is the dying like the dying model here. Like that is not going to be working for very long. But this to see that like Jim Nagy has noticed, and then they know like this is where the future of sports reporting is going. People want curated things for their team specifically. They don't want to hear about, you know, this prospect might be good for these 10 other teams that I don't care about. But you're seeing that, and you just see that this is now the premier stop for evaluating players that are going into the NFL. When they say the draft starts in Mobile, it is not just a phrase. It really, you truly understand, because you have a kid like Gray Zabel, who's from North Dakota State, interior offensive lineman, who's projected before they get to the Senior Bowl, maybe early third round pick, maybe late second, but he's a small school kid. Hasn't gone against a lot of premier defensive tackle talent.
Mm.
And then he shows up at the Senior Bowl, and he goes up against guys like Deion Walker. He goes up against guys like Jamari Caldwell. He goes up against guys like Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins from Georgia. And he's going against these guys every day in practice. And guys like him. And is showing that he can hold up against these guys.
Yeah, especially coming from North Dakota State, a smaller school. I mean, we all know about North Dakota State when you talk about Mr. Trey Lance.
Right, and we know about, the other quarterback.
Carson Wentz.
That little known guy.
Yeah.
But they aren't known as a school that's producing premier offensive linemen. He shows up there, stonewalls everybody all week, goes great in the run blocking scheme, and suddenly now he's being projected as maybe the first interior offensive lineman to go off the board. And maybe a late first round pick. I mean, that is what this when you say that the Senior Bowl, like, to me, mock drafts before the Senior Bowl mean nothing, because they will change so much, and it's a domino effect, right? You have somebody like this, he shoots up in there, all of a sudden every mock draft is now changed, because he wasn't on anybody's first round board, and now he's suddenly on a possibility to go to 5 teams in the first round. So,
I mean, 6'6", 305, that's a big boy right there. And really, it's like when you look at the Senior Bowl, you're talking about guys that have been in college football for at least 4 years. So they are more polished than a lot of these other guys are coming out if they're a junior or a sophomore, depending on how much time they had to play. So these are the most polished players, the most developed players in college football, I would imagine. And we can see that again when it comes to guys like even Brock Purdy. He played 4 years at Iowa. You could see that he has a much better understanding, is more mature about playing the quarterback position than a lot of these guys who are just like, oh, you're going to be great, don't worry. And then they go out there and they're like, holy shit, this is a lot faster than I thought. If there was one player that you think the Niners at number 11 should take that you saw at the Senior Bowl, who would it be? A perfect world scenario. Like if this guy was, it doesn't matter who everyone else takes, this guy's going to be available. What's one guy you think, man, they could really, really use this guy?
I mean, it's tough. The name that everybody's floating around is Walter Nolan. A lot of people are floating him around. He's a defensive tackle from Ole Miss. He was there, showed the physical attributes of why he's considered to be a possibility there at number 11. If I'm just looking at what the 49ers have done,
this guy here
have done over the course of time, is that, Walter Nolan played well, but he didn't, you see 6.5 sacks. He's not a 10-sack guy from college. And he was a little up and down through his senior year. And I don't know if that was enough to push them, to say, okay, this is the kid. Now, before the reports have started to come out that Mike Green has an off-field assault issue, before that happened, I was saying it was going to be Mike Green. But again, just looking through the 49ers lens, Mike Green from Marshall, he had 17 sacks this year, I believe. And so everybody thought, okay, is this kind of a one-year wonder, though? And it's at Marshall, so he's not going against premier defensive or offensive tackles. But he showed up at the Senior Bowl, and it's like you had just said, that video of him running over Josh Connerly, it showed he can beat every – Josh Connerly is probably going to be a first-round tackle. And he absolutely pancaked him in a bull rush. And so that tells you you've got the production on the field, you've got the time spent playing football, and you've got the physical attributes, and you've shown it here at the Senior Bowl that you can do this. So that was the big, and I know Brad was sitting next to me, and he was really high on Mike Green too. He's been hyping him up recently. Now things change always, because now there's rumors and speculation that he has an assault, off-field assault, that is there. And we know the 49ers, they overlook that with Reuben Foster, right? The issues of that with Reuben Foster, and then they got burned so bad by Reuben Foster.
So bad. Oh.
So that, I think both of these guys have that little bit of a red flag that they've done in the past. Walter Nolan has those shades of, Javon Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas, of showed it really well one season and against some people, but wasn't consistent, and then could not be that true difference maker at defensive tackle. I think Walter Nolan could be. He's got a lot of the same physical attributes that both those guys had. Those guys just couldn't put it together. And so, seeing that, what I start really wondering is what happens over the next month is really gonna make this list make a lot more sense to me. I got a lot of names that I've circled on.
Wow,
here,
look
if you
at
guys
that.
can see it. These are my notes and names of guys from the Senior Bowl that I would be happy if we took anybody that has a note on them. This class is absolutely stacked with defensive talent, especially on the defensive line. And so I think what's going to be really interesting is looking at, okay, is there somebody though at number 11 that you feel is a difference maker enough at number 11 over what you could get at, say, 26? To me, what I saw at the Senior Bowl, I'm not seeing that much of a needle move. Like, that 11 to 26 is enough of a drop-off that I wouldn't want to trade back, that I wouldn't want to pick up an extra second. Mm-hmm. I think that there's within here, the top 100 players is stacked with a lot of talented kids. And so for me, it would be about, I don't know if number 11 has the big difference maker. I think the skill positions are a little more top heavy, but the defensive line, offensive line, tight ends, the meat and potatoes positions are very deep. And so you can move back and pick up an extra one of those, and you won't really lose anything. I think it also then makes you wonder, does that tell the 49ers we are now able and allowed to be more aggressive, to go chase after a defensive end that may be disgruntled where he's at and maybe has requested a trade? If that's out there, I don't know if it is.
It's funny because I know of a guy that recently posted this to the national media, and that was Myles Garrett. He posted this letter saying, basically, thanks for all the memories. I'll see you guys later. Now, I know the Browns came out and formally said, oh, well, we have no intention on trading him. But when you post a letter like this, to me, there's no going back. He's already said goodbye.
No, yeah.
And I know there was another guy who, I forgot the name of the player. I think it was Ninjoku, who said, hey, just stick around. It's fine. We'll get things right. No, it's not. He's saying goodbye. And so immediately 49er fans are like, let's do it. Let's go all in. Yeah. Let's go all in. Now, this guy, Myles Garrett, is an absolute game changer. When I first heard this, I thought, if there was a way that we can acquire Myles Garrett using that number 11 pick along with other draft picks, this would be the ultimate game changer for the 49ers defense. Getting Robert Saleh as your defensive coordinator, now you add Myles Garrett as your defensive end, across from Nick Bosa. That would be nearly unstoppable. So when we talk about the possibility of this trade, what do you think the odds are the Niners can actually pull this off?
Okay. So this is going to be a very fascinating 4 weeks. Because, one, Garrett can't be traded until the first day of the new league year.
Yeah.
Right. So, because technically we're past the trade deadline, so he cannot be traded until that time. So there is going to be feverish negotiations between, and here's the sticky point, and this is rife with so much. So, because we are technically past the trade deadline and we are before the new league year, teams cannot contact and meddle and interfere with somebody under contract from another team. So the 49ers cannot contact Myles Garrett directly. And they can't try and work out a trade compensation for him. They can't try and woo him. They can't try and work out a potential contract. They can't do that. No team can. But that doesn't mean players can't.
Right.
So there's going to be, you saw Diamador Lenore posting about it on social media.
There it is.
You are going to see a number of players. I guarantee you they have already started to reach out. I would bet money that Nick Bosa has sent over a text.
I mean, look at this. I mean, Lenore did not hold back. He immediately was on, full scouting patrol. Like, yo, I got this. Don't worry, guys. I don't care what anybody says. And then on top of that, where was it?
I'm trying to figure out who the Lion is on the team. I can't figure that out.
Well, and then
Is that Kittle.
Well, and then there's Kittle, who made this statement and said, George Kittle sends a message to Myles Garrett. He says, trust me, we could be good friends. The recruitment is on. So, I mean, he said the first part. So even he was reaching out. And it doesn't stop there. Because here we have a clip from Fred Warner, who made a comment about Myles Garrett coming to the Niners. So let's take a listen to this.
A lot of talk about Myles Garrett. A lot of talk about, what is that face?
Because I'm like, rightfully so. It's Myles Garrett.
What is it? Would you welcome him?
Seems like he be using a lot of percent
Well,
protein.
y'all have a lot going on. Like, George needs to get paid. Brock needs to get extended. You got Hufanga. You got all these things. You need a DB.
Right.
Where, is there room for Myles Garrett there?
There's always room for a Myles Garrett.
There's always
on the
room.
team
Explain
because
why.
this is a Hall of Fame player. Not just a Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it, and just a super soldier. You see him walking around here. He looks a lot different than a lot of these other cats that are walking around here.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would even come about, how we would get that done, but I know there's some way, somehow we can figure that out.
Yeah, like John
Me
Lynch.
and George can just give a little bit of our funds over to Myles Garrett. How about that? How's
Okay,
that sound?
now you say that again. You're saying George.
I'm including George in the
George,
equation.
you're making such good money with the scent and Experian
that's
that you're
right.
going to give a paycheck to
Myles Garrett.
Myles.
Yes.
Okay, well, you heard it here first.
And in
That might be
turn,
the
we
best
get a Super
pitch.
Bowl.
I mean, he even said that he would essentially take a pay cut to get him in here.
That is what needs to be said. So like
Yes.
that to me is the biggest statement that anybody can make, because here's the issue is that this last season we didn't see that. We saw guys chasing extensions and leveraging every last point. It was Christian McCaffrey. It was Trent Williams. I know the Brandon Ayuk situation was there. I think there were some other things going on, but and he's also going for his first big extension. But you had Christian McCaffrey and you had Trent Williams, who were going after their third contracts, fourth contracts, fifth contracts that had already been super paid, that were pushing for big raises and more guaranteed money. That is what we need to hear, because when I talked to Jesse Zapolo almost 2 years ago, that was the number one thing he said. He goes, I had to sacrifice a $100,000 bonus in my contract to switch positions, because if I was number one in Pro Bowl voting, and if I stayed at the position I was at, I would have made the Pro Bowl and I would have gotten a $100,000 bonus. They asked me to switch positions in week 12, and I did it. Because they said, if you do this, we can still win a Super Bowl. If you don't, I don't know if we can. And he switched positions, and he personally lost out on $100,000 on another Pro Bowl nod. Possibly, that most likely affects that he will never be in the Hall of Fame. But he did it because they wanted to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This is the kind of buy-in that you need. So when I hear Fred saying, because it's always, that's up to the front office to figure out how to pay everybody. At some point, you cannot keep saying that. You can't have the top 10 players sucking up, 90% of your cap space and then saying, well, look, it's a lot of mouths to feed. You say, if you're on your third contract, you really want to go win a Super Bowl, then somebody's got to give here so that we can bring in some premier talent. That is what we've seen some of the greatest champion dynasties over the years do. The Patriots did it. Tom Brady did that. By the time he got on his third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh contracts, he was being paid like 10th in the league. Like, that has to happen at some point. I get guys aren't going to do that in their first big contract. You want to get as much guaranteed money. You get paid. You get that. It's the third, fourth contracts. That's where guys, look, you've made your money. It's time to win a Super Bowl. And that's what I want to see. But the idea of Garrett being there, I think like that, there's got to be player wooing, because the team can't. Because, and here's all of that setup. you have to get Myles Garrett to leverage the Browns. Because they've got to be faced with, you either trade me to this team, therefore they can actually send a compensation that they will actually trade for, or I am not playing for you. And that's the end of it. It's because here's the deal. Myles Garrett knows he's never winning a Super Bowl in Cleveland.
Never.
Cleveland, they made their own bed, and he knows it, and he has no sympathy to them for doing it. They traded for Deshaun Watson. They knew the issues Deshaun Watson had. They knew the baggage that was there. They gave him a $220 million guaranteed contract.
So stupid.
And he is a $73 million cap figure this year. He is $73 million against their cap this season.
That's insane.
Okay? He's got still almost $27 million in prorated signing bonus. He's got $46 million in base salary that is fully guaranteed. And so they cannot cut him. He has now retorn his Achilles and will probably miss the entirety of next season. So they already have $73 million of their cap stashed on IR for the entirety of the season.
What a disaster.
And they are $30 million over the cap right now. So
Jesus.
So like they can't cut him and save cap space. Even if they tried to get rid of Deshaun Watson right now, they would end up taking a further hit of another $99 million.
God, what a disaster.
His dead money would be $172 million right now, is what Deshaun Watson would be. Even if you spread that over 2 years, that is that's almost $90 million a year. Like, it is just wild. I mean, so they can't do anything with Deshaun Watson. They are stuck with him. Like, they can't, like people say, you got to move on eventually. You can't. You literally can't. You can't. You will not be able to make cap if you do. It will cost you even more to release him than he's already costing you. Like, it's just insane. So you have that, and you don't have a lot of ways to make up cap space. You have guys like Denzel Ward. You could try and restructure. You could try and restructure Jack Conklin. You know, you might be able to restructure Greg Newsome. They're probably going to have to do that to make cap. But all that to say, if you're trying to trade Myles Garrett, they have to do it in a way like the Browns will eat another $16 million in dead money. So they're already in. So the Browns are in a bad position to even pull this off and make cap. So if you're the 49ers, you then have, like, the Browns are going to say, look, we're going to have to give up a Hall of Fame player, and we have to make up for the dead cap that we're eating to pay him to play for you. So you need to give us $16 million worth of player in some sort of, in cap space player, in some sort of commodity. That's going to be a draft pick. That's going to be a player that you've already paid a signing bonus to, something like that. So, you know, and apparently Denzel Ward wants to be traded if Garrett gets traded.
He does.
Which is
He made that statement.
Which is another problem because he's a further $42 million in dead money.
God. Let's take a look at Myles Garrett's contract as courtesy of Sport Track. Now, yes, you see the base salary is only at $1 million, but his option is $18 million. Again, $19 million the following season. I think they can make this work. However, if they were to make this trade, I would imagine there would be a new contract involved in which these numbers would go down and kind of balance itself out for the next year, 2 years before it starts to go up again. And if that's the case, I think that if they brought him in, restructured, gave him a new contract in which he's not making $18 million a season, that would allow you to free up more cap space to go out and sign a guy like DJ Jones. I mean, that's the guy I want. I want DJ Jones so bad. And I think this would give you the ability to do so. So let's say you trade, you know, your number 11 pick, your, 2 second-round picks or a second and a third, and you included like Leonard Floyd.
I was thinking the same thing. You know,
and then that way,
Floyd, somebody makes sense.
You could say, hey, look, we're giving you a defensive end who had 10.5 sacks or whatever. So you're getting a guy that can fill in that spot. You can draft whoever you want, and I think that would help them financially give them more flexibility since they're locked up with Deshaun Watson. I mean, I don't think Myles Garrett comes over with the last 2 years on his contract remaining the way they are. I think they would have to re-up him because that's not a guy you want to get rid of. But we'll see what they do. But I think if they did that, it would give them more flexibility. Because if you made this move, this may be your only move. But it's a pretty big fucking move because even though you'd be trading draft picks, this is a for sure thing. Barring any injury, this guy is a monster. The guy's only missed, I think he missed like 2 games or a game last season. He's missed 3 in the past 3 years, something like that. It's absolutely incredible. So this guy would change your entire defense just by having him on the field.
Yeah, I mean the dreams of a Garrett Bosa pairing. It just, I mean, that's something that, as many people said, that's almost unfair to the league because you're talking about the 2 most premier defensive players in the league. Not even defensive linemen. These are the 2 most premier defensive players. You're talking this year's defensive player of the year and last year's defensive player of the year. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Like, it is those 2 guys. They are just unreal talents. Has there ever been 2 former defensive player of the years on, like, recently on the same
I don't
team?
think so.
I don't think so. Like, that is crazy. Would that be the greatest defensive end pairing of all time? I mean,
I think it would be
like Freeney and Mathis, and I think this is well beyond that.
I mean, when you look at this comment here by Baseman, he says, sign Brock Purdy, sign Jerry Greenlaw, trade for Myles Garrett, sign Drew Dahlman. I think you can get Drew Dahlman if you restructure Garrett's contract and give him an extension where the next couple years is more financially friendly. Then you can make a move and sign a guy like Drew Dahlman, right? Because, look, we all know that our center last year was not very good. Jake Brendel was awful. Now, are there any prospects in the draft that they could go after? Or do you think that, signing a guy like Drew Dahlman would be a better option for the 49ers?
Well, and that's tricky. So, and this is why personally, I think something needs to happen. I don't know how you would do it because the way the league year is, and the timing. I hate the timing of free agency before the draft.
Yeah.
Because really and that's why you tend to see another wave of free agency after the draft. But Kyle has been very reticent against any rookie centers. Now, a guy we just talked about at the beginning of the show, if you trade for a Myles Garrett, can you try, if you still have that second there, can you try and leverage something else to move up into the late first to try if a Gray Zabel is there? Mm-hmm. Because he played center at the Senior Bowl as well as guard. And again, this looks like the premier interior offensive lineman in this draft. Now, there's another kid, though, that I think will be there day 2 and into day 3 that we really, all of us fell in love with at the Senior Bowl as well. He was on the American team, and that is Jackson Slater from Sacramento State. Jackson Slater was like the poor man's Gray Zabel that was there. Another
I went to Sac State, hey.
No offense to Sac State. Hey, I was hyping him up on social media, and next thing I knew, I had like 6 Sac State coaches following me on X. It was amazing.
Really?
And yeah, and his offensive line coach started following me, so that was
this guy here
fascinating. But Jackson Slater, he's 6'4". I don't know if 6'4" is accurate. I will just say, I don't think that's accurate because I was standing across from him, and I'm 5'8". And he did not seem like he was 8 inches taller than me. Not even close. He looked maybe 6'1", maybe. So, 6'4", he's not 6'4".
Maybe he was on his tippy toes.
Yeah,
maybe he had boots on.
Something. I mean, because he was still in his cleats when I talked to him. And, he's the same height as Brad Graham. So, we'll find out what Brad is.
Brad Graham is 6'4"?
No, that's what I'm saying.
I was like, he's a massive dude. He's like,
no, he is a big dude. Like he used to play offensive line in college, and so he was a big guy. But Jackson Slater showed he can play with the big boys, another small school kid who really showed up and showed out at the Senior Bowl. So I think he's going to be there. I think there's a few guys. Jonah Monheim from USC, I think, did well. He has a few issues, got beat pretty bad a couple times, but it was wasn't like he was just getting whooped all week. He held his own against several players. So I think he's a good prospect that's there. It's, to me, if it was between replacing Jake Brendel with a Drew Dahlman and getting a Myles Garrett, I don't think those things are close. I don't think you can do both.
Yeah,
I don't think you can sign Drew Dahlman, extend Brock Purdy, re-sign Greenlaw, and go get Myles Garrett. Like, at some point, the levy is going to break on that.
No,
I
absolutely.
think, like, if it came down to that, you go into this draft and you say, we're going to get Jackson Slater, we're going to get Jonah Monheim, we're going to shore up that interior offensive line. That's what you're going to do. And I think those are prospects that can come in and upgrade the offensive line day one.
Okay, let's take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Brock Purdy contract situation and some other tidbits that I've been hearing that I kind of want to put to bed. Okay, we'll be right back. You're watching DreArea Sports Show with Johnny Dell on the DreArea Sports channel. We'll be right back.
The DreArea Sports Show is brought to you by SeatGeek.
Use promo code DreArea Sports to save $20 on your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. And we are also brought to you by BetUS. BetUS will match you up to 125% on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 by using promo code DreArea Sports. PowerBrandSystems. If you're looking to build a website for your small business or YouTube channel, then check out PowerBrandSystems. Use promo code 300. Power to save up to $300 on your first purchase at PowerBrandSystems.
Okay, so we're back now. We're talking with Johnny Dale, host of Johnny Dale's Football Academy over on YouTube and wherever you find your podcasts. So definitely check him out. I wanted to talk to you because we're talking so much about the free agency, talking about Drew Dahlman, talking about the possible trade for Myles Garrett, which I think it has to be on the top of their priority list. Obviously, look, they got to focus on the draft. They got to focus on a lot of things. But one of the things that they need to take care of is the signing of Brock Purdy. Now, I love how everyone comes out now and says, "Oh, Brock Purdy's new contract this offseason is expected to make around $55 to $60 million per season." Yeah, we know that. We've known that for a while now, and early on, even last season or earlier this season, I should say. I was even saying start him at 45. I was pissed off. But look, realistically, he's going to get somewhere around. It's going to start at $60 million. I don't see it starting at 55. I see it starting at $60 million. That's my opinion, and I'm saying that because when you look at this is the thing that ruined everything. And I think this was Jerry Jones's plan the entire time was let's sign Dak Prescott to a fat contract because they knew and then that way that'll slow down San Francisco. So if you look at Dak Prescott's contract, it's insane.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. Jerry Jones drew this up too on a napkin. Yeah, I got it right here. What is it? He's going to make $47 million. 28 is a signing portion or a proration. A cap hit is $89 million. I mean, it's like, holy crap.
Well, yeah, so they restructured his base salary. So that's what the restructured proration is.
Yeah.
Then he had the new signing bonus that was added on, which is also prorated. Those combined is $42,146,666. I'm looking on a site that has those combined. And then
I was like, that was some quick math, man.
I'm a genius. You didn't know that? It was like
Beautiful
that moment
mind.
in the office when it's the accountant.
So the thing about
totally having anyways, when he asked everybody, he's like, "Hey, anybody know what 15% of $4,200 is?" And Michael knows it immediately. He's like, Michael's a genius. No, it wasn't one of those situations. But then you have his base salary of $47.75 million and a total cap hit of almost $90 million. Like, that is insane. That is insane to put that onto one player in a single season. And you would say, okay, well, that would make sense if it was a front-loaded contract that you were then going to reduce over the next few years and spread that out. No. And they added stupid for no reason void years that don't even pick up the cap pen. Like, why did you, the point of void years is to spread that prorated cap, the signing bonus out over more seasons.
He loves
but
that.
You didn't.
He loves
you
them.
didn't. Like, this is the dumbest. When you look at all the other contracts, okay, nobody's is like that. If you look at Jordan Love's contract, for example, Jordan Love is no more than a $45 million cap hit until 2028. Okay, so Jordan Love, his cap hit this year was just under 21 million.
This
Next
looks
year
more
was
reasonable.
Just under 30 million. The year after that, just over 36, then just over 44, and then it jumps up to 75, which is the year that they're going to make a decision on Jordan Love. That's what it is. They probably really are set. They've got this set up so where 2027 they can make a decision on Jordan Love. That's how these contracts are usually structured, is like that. So there's these big APY numbers. So Jordan Love is the highest paid quarterback when it happens, but the actual cash paid out over the first 3 years is what's the biggest deal. And Dak Prescott's cash payout over the first 3 years is far and above everybody else. And so, like, that is where it just makes no sense to me of why they're going with that kind of cash flow schedule. It makes no sense to me.
That's what I'm telling you. Like, that contract, it really just fucks everything up for everybody else. And it's kind of like
him and Joe Burrows. So Joe Burrows is very similar. In the first 3 years of his extension, he's got $146 million payout of cash payout. Dak Prescott, $140 million. So those are the sticking points. Now, what I think Brock Purdy and kind of what we've been hearing, like Tim K had some reports on this, and some other people have cited some sources.
Here's Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow is again, it's the amount of cash payout is, his cap hits aren't too bad, but his cash payout is pretty sizable over those first 3 years. So, you look at that, at the way that his is, I want to say his signing bonus was pretty good, and then year 1, year 2. So when you add those 3 years together, it's $146 million.
It's like hamstringing the whole team too. But
Yeah,
he's really good. He's really good.
He's phenomenal, but he, even as phenomenal as he is, you could see this year how it was hamstringing the team.
Yeah.
Because of so much cash being paid out in those first 3 years. What I think a better comp for what Brock Purdy's going to get, I don't think it's going to be. I was thinking it was going to be the Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes type contract. But again, hearing some of the things that are coming out, and seeing how the Ayuk situation went out, and then hearing some of the behind the scenes on how that went out, I think the 49ers are going to play hardball more than we would hope for them to. I think they're trying to leverage on Brock already. And I don't think they actually sign him before the new league year. That's just my intuition right now. Because what I think's going to happen is the new league year is going to come around, and they're going to sign somebody. And I think they're going to sign somebody that nobody of us will be happy that they sign. I think they're going to sign Mac Jones. That's just what I think they're going to do. And what they're going to do is they're going to look to leverage Mac Jones as a potential for them to play in 2025 to lower Brock Purdy's cap hit. I think that's what they're going to do. I don't have a source on that. That's just reading the tea leaves and what I'm hearing from different people. That is what they're going. What I suspect for them to do. He's somebody that's a young guy with starting experience and can play in the Shanahan system. He played in Sarkisian's system. So I think, and that the 49ers were linked to coming into the 2021 draft. So I think that's what's going to happen. And that's where the contract will really, the rubber will hit the road. I think the Kirk Cousins framework is much more likely than the Jordan Love framework. So Kirk Cousins' contract is one that a cash payout over the first 3 years is actually higher than most of the guys that we think about. Like his cash payout over the first 3 years is higher than Josh Allen's. It's higher than Matt Stafford's. It's higher than Jared Goff's. What he's got is his APY is not that big, right? $45 million at a time when I think this was at the same time that the highest in the league was 55. Yeah. So 45 a year feels small, but his actual cash flow payout over the first 3 years is $135 million. So it's $45 a year. So his is a very balanced contract. He was given a $50 million signing bonus, and that's prorated over 4 years. And then, I mean, if you look at 2025, his cap hit is literally $40 million.
This is so much money. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane to think what these guys make. But it's still the same amount of cash made over those first 3 years, and an out after 2. And so it turns out in the end, it's very much similar. I think that's what happens. It's not going to be this 6-7 year contract where we're kicking all this stuff down the road. I think they're going to try and leverage it for this on Brock. They want to keep the heat on him. That's what they do with their quarterbacks. They hedge their bets on their quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. They did that with Jimmy. They did that with Trey Lance. They're going to do it with Brock. Like, that's just how they work. That's what they do. Like, one of the worst things they probably did for Trey Lance's development was keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, again, I'm not saying that they did something wrong in keeping Jimmy Garoppolo, because obviously Trey Lance was not working out, but I also believe that hampered Trey Lance's development. Like, yeah. when you have somebody that sometimes, like, they're all about put the guys in the pressure, because then they will find out who really succeeds. But you could feel that with Brock this year. He was pressing in moments because he knew this was coming, and I think he knew that they were going to try and leverage on him. And so he was trying to make it where they couldn't. And so, I think this stuff does affect play on the field, but I think that contract makes more sense. That's what I'm thinking, because what we're hearing is that Brock doesn't necessarily care about being the highest paid player in the league. Like, that APY is just to satisfy a player as being the highest paid player. That's all the APY is about. It's about the first 3, the actual money, and what they care about, the team and the player, is how much money is paid out over the first 3 years. Because nobody plays through the end of their contract. None of these guys do.
Yeah.
Nobody does.
That's like a lost art. Playing through the end of your contract. There's just no way. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about was the ongoing talk, which I think is just so stupid, of the Niners going after T. Higgins. I don't see this happening at all. I don't think this is a need, yet people still want to talk about this. Like, T. Higgins, the Niners, all because one guy, I forgot his name, said it, that, if he was on like a team like San Francisco, this guy would be spectacular. And it just blossomed from there. When we look at, look, is he a good player? Yes, he's a very good receiver. He's dynamic. He's great. But I don't see the Niners spending the money to get another receiver in the building when they already have a room full of receivers. And I can see them drafting a receiver as well. But I don't see them going after T. Higgins. Do you think this is even something that they would even entertain?
They're going to act like it. Again, if we go back to the Brandon Ayuk situation all year, I think that they were not fully forthright with us during the whole process. And then we saw the different things. If he was going to become a Steeler, he was going to, this and that, and things were moving along, all for him to sign the contract in the end. That what I think this is about, I think they're trying to leverage Debo. I mean, look, I don't mean to sound jaded here, but I think a lot of things that we hear on this is also, we have to remember that they are also going to leverage their own guys that are in the building. And that's mostly on John Lynch. And that's how John Lynch operates. Like, that's just is. He's about that. We're gonna build a competitive environment. We're gonna push competition. And so John Lynch was at the Senior Bowl. Kyle Shanahan was not. So if this is buzz coming out of the Senior Bowl, that means it's almost surely coming out of John Lynch's mouth, because the personnel guys they had there were not the top tier personnel guys. They were not going to be the ones sparking these rumors. After that, it was KJ Wright and then August Mangin. Neither of those guys were going to be starting these rumors.
Yeah.
The only person that this could have come from is John Lynch. Again, you have Deebo Samuel, who's probably going to be finagling for another restructure himself. has probably already talked. You've had some, I'm not getting the opportunities this last season because he could start feeling the 49ers were going to leverage him and say, your production dipped. We need to approach you about a pay cut. And so I just, again, I think what we've seen from John Lynch over and over again is that he leverages players on this to try and get the best deal. And sometimes that backfires like it did with the Brandon Ayuk situation. Mm-hmm. So to me, this is John Lynch is getting this out there, and it's a kind of a warning shot across the bow for Debo that says, if you don't play game with this, then we could go get T. Higgins. I think that's what he's trying to put out there.
Well, and there's a lot of talk too about, if they were to make a trade with, let's say, the Browns, that maybe Debo would be involved. But I don't see them trading Debo Samuel unless you're getting a receiver in return. Yes, you have. Oh, there we go. That was weird. Yes, you have Juwan Jennings. Yes, you have Ricky Pearsall, but that's not enough to take you into next season. I know Strawberry React says, don't extend Debo. Don't do it 49ers. I don't know if they will extend him. I feel like they would rather restructure his contract, but which could lead to that. A 49ers fan says, Jonny, do you have Ayuk getting paid higher than Purdy?
No. I mean, look, no, nothing in there would be Ayuk getting paid higher than Brock Purdy. I think the way that the contract is going to work is that they're going to try and leverage everything to get Brock down as much as they can. And look, I think when you look at the 49ers, that's their game, is leverage. They try and get, and every team does this to an extent, unless you're Jerry Jones and it's Dak Prescott. But I just think that's what's going to happen. I think they drafted Ricky Pearsall completely in a leverage move on Brandon Ayuk. Like I cannot look at that situation and don't think that didn't have part to do with it. That part of it was, we're going to bring Ricky Pearsall in and as a warning shot again to Brandon Ayuk of, Brandon, you need to come down on this price. We can ship you off now. Like to look at that situation and what the 49ers needed at that point, to think that didn't play any sort of a role in this, I think would be foolish. It absolutely the Brandon Ayuk situation and them wanting to press on him played a part. Now, it wasn't the only reason why Ricky Pearsall was drafted, but it definitely moved the needle quite a bit. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean it was a bad draft choice. It's just, this is how they operate. This is how they operate. They do this stuff. They were trying to trade Jimmy Garoppolo away, right? They could have cut him in training camp that year that Trey Lance was supposed to be the starter. Like, he was doing rehab there. They were trying to find a trade partner, but they could have cut him. But they didn't, because they were watching Trey Lance in practice every day during training camp, and they didn't like what they were seeing. And they wanted to hedge their bet against Trey Lance. So that's why they restructured Jimmy to stay. Like, this is how they operate. So I don't see them giving Brock the, okay, here's the keys to the franchise and go. I don't see them doing that.
Well, it makes you wonder too, like, how soon into it do they realize, like, oh fuck, I don't think Trey Lance is the guy. He can't read defenses. There's a lot of things he couldn't do. But that is what it is. But I mean, look, if they sign Brock to a 4-year contract similar to what Kirk Cousins got, that'd be cool. But I still feel like it's going to be longer. I feel like they want to keep him around for that, more control over him, because otherwise, just like you were saying, if you do a 4-year deal, in 2 years, you're doing this again. And so I feel like they want to extend this out longer and not have to worry about this contract in a couple of years. But
but I don't know, because just to push back on that, this is the last year of the COVID reduced cap. So 2026, the cap will explode, but nobody knows exactly how much. So what I think they're trying to do is set this up so that they can extend Brock again, coming out of the 2026 year. That what they're going to do is that they're going to find out what 2026 is. They'll restructure and sign guys then with all that bloated cap space, and then try and create a big amount of rollover and then go into 2027. And that's when they do the long-term deal with Brock. But they want to see 2025, 2026 again, force that pressure on him to do that while they are in this kind of win mode and everything. That's what I think. So and again, what Tim Kawakami was talking about was maybe a shorter term deal like the Daniel Jones contract, which Daniel Jones's contract was very similar to Kirk Cousins' contract. They were that 4-year, $160 million, 4-year, $180 million, and they were almost, the first 2 years was pretty much fully guaranteed in that, and you had big cash payout over those first 2 years.
Daniel Jones,
those two contracts were very similar. And so, and again, that was what Tim K was saying. That was what he suspected, because they said they didn't think the framework was going to be the same. His source said that they didn't think this framework was going to be the same as more recent big name contracts like Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa. So I'm just like, in reading that, that's where I go, okay, the Kirk Cousins makes sense. The exploding cap makes sense. Of let's kind of really get through these 2 years and then figure out what our full long-term structure is going to be, because you're going to have an explosion in the cap, and then you can almost predict like 8% year-over-year growth. So it makes it much easier to budget at that point. But I think in everything you do sign Brock Purdy to an extension, but I don't think it's going to happen for at least the next 6 weeks. I just don't see it happening.
It's not going to be like the Jimmy Garoppolo where they had him sign like the first week of February. They were like, all right, he's done. I mean, then they didn't have a choice. They had to get somebody in here.
Jimmy had the leverage. They had spent a second-round pick on him. They added the trade line. They had nobody. Kirk Cousins' situation was not looking like it was going to be really there. So, like, he had the leverage. So they went ahead and did it. But they also had an out after 2 years.
Poor Jimmy, man.
And so I think you're going to see something where and this is why Tim said it. He said it's going to take some time to hammer out. The 49ers are lowballing him right now. They're approaching it with the same framework, but their numbers aren't close. And as time goes, free agency is going to happen. They are going to sign somebody to come in that they will use as leverage. I'm going to guarantee this is going to happen. So,
well, we had talked about Joe Flacco being an option. I still think he might be too expensive.
Well, he's also not somebody that you're going to leverage. Like,
no,
that screams, here's our experienced backup
to mentor you.
That is, well, and not even, I don't know, mentor, but like, if you get hurt, we can win 2 games with him.
Yeah.
But we don't think this dude's body is not holding up for an entire year. Like, we are not supplanting you as a starter with this guy.
I mean, the thing is, though,
has potential to turn his career around. I think that's where, again, I think Mac Jones is going to be the guy. Like, that's just, I think.
I could easily see Mac Jones. I know that they considered him during the draft the year he came out. But I also think that, if you're going to give Brock this massive contract, you got to make sure that you have somebody there that he can kind of turn to, especially in those tough situations when he comes back to the sideline. You don't want him to, hey, Brandon, what'd you think I did there? Hey, right. Mac, I sucked. What happened? At least with Joe Flacco, this is an experienced guy who's won a Super Bowl. If you turn to him, he could tell you, hey, you should be looking at it. Or it just makes a world of a difference having an experienced quarterback in your back pocket as opposed to Brandon Allen or, Mac Jones. But I could see them going Mac Jones. I really could. I know Kyle liked him coming out of the draft. Jonny, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and talking 49ers football. If you guys haven't done so yet, make sure you head over to Johnny Dale's Football Academy, subscribe to his channel, go to his website, which is
JFA49.com.
And become a member of his channel, and you get access to to his content early, his communities. You can do that for me as well on my homepage, which is nicotina.net. You'll see the link for memberships over for DreArea Sports. I also have the link down there in the description, so it's easier to click on. They start as low as $1, and they go as high as $20, depending on how much you want to give to the channel. And I appreciate everyone who already has been on there. Make sure that you join the community as I'm posting updates for Niners pretty much all day long. So definitely check that out. And when I do clips of videos, I post them on there commercial free, so you can watch it on there without having to worry about YouTube, popping up commercials throughout the video. So definitely give that a look and give it a Google. and I do appreciate it. Johnny, we'll do it again. Let's hope the Niners can make something happen, man. I would be so excited to see them get Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett would change everything. It would be the equivalent of the Lakers getting Luka Doncic, where you're just like, oh my God. The last time the Niners made a move that sounded this sexy was when they got Chase Young. And then we saw that he was more like Chase, he was more like Jog Young. It was,
More like Chase Geriatric.
yeah. But when they first did it though, where everyone was like, oh, you're like, oh my God. They had the right idea.
That first week, the defense took a huge
against
jump. I mean,
against
it was
Jacksonville,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this would just be, it would be unreal. It'd be unreal what would happen if we get Myles
Yes.
Garrett. I mean, to have the Super Bowl in Levi's this year and the home field advantage that you have and Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa on the other side, I mean, oh, good Lord. Like, just give us the Lombardi. Just give it to us now.
Our biggest threat would
Don't
be...
play the season so nobody gets hurt. Like, just give it to us now.
I mean, our biggest threat would be the Eagles because they're a more complete team. But I mean, they're in the Super Bowl right now. I still think the Chiefs are going to find a way to win this game. If not the Chiefs or the refs will be like, but we'll see what happens. Johnny, thank you so much for coming on here, guys. I want to thank everyone who came out. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the DreArea Sports channel. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Johnny Dale's Football Academy. And if you're watching on X, make sure you follow my account on X as I race to get to 10,000. I'm a long ways away, but guys, I appreciate any help. Check out nicotina.net, my homepage. You'll find memberships available for DreArea Sports. And until next time, guys, go Niners. Let's hope they get Myles Garrett. That would be badass. Only time will tell. We'll see you next time. Peace.